TG Geeks, episode 225, June 10th, 2019. Queer Sci Fi for Pride Month. Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the two gay geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery, sci-fi, comics, film, horror genre. You name it, we talk about it. I'm Keith Lane. We're coming to you from TG Squared Studios in lovely... we're in Los Angeles.
Yes.
Recording this episode.
That's right. We're at the mobile studios.
We're at the mobile studio at the Hilton LAX. On the runway.
On it.
On it. And let's...
and this is Ben. Duh.
Yeah. Who are you?
Ben.
Ben? Do I know you?
I would hope so after so many years.
Exactly. Well, let's get on with this show.
Prepare for hyperdrive.
Meanwhile, in the Hall of Episodes, the two gay geeks are discussing this.
Well, first of all, we have, as part of our celebration of Pride Month, we have Scott Coatsworth, who is an author, and he runs a number of sci-fi and queer websites for gay authors, LGBTQ authors, and so we talked to him about that, as well as his novels that he's written. We're going to have our birthday shout-outs, our featured podcast of the week, everybody's favorite feedback. And we're shaking up the order of the show a little bit this time to see how it works, to kind of interspersing our regular...
And to toy with your minds.
Exactly. Put our feedback stuff in there so that intersperse it, kind of give us a little break for a moment to regain our sanity in between all of the stuff. Then we have our weekly recap and the little shout-outs that we do at the end of the show. So that's kind of it. We're going to get right to talking to Scott. And this time we have an author from up in the Sacramento area, J. Scott Coatsworth. He's an author and I suppose a Renaissance man because he does lots of other things. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell us who Scott Coatsworth is and how you kind of got into writing and then we'll kind of segue into all of the other stuff that you do.
Man, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
So I am just crossed the 50-ish mark last year, but
Baby.
I was writing. What's that?
Baby.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
We're approaching the 60 mark.
Yeah, well, getting there. I had always wanted to write. I was writing when I was in high school, and I did my first novel when I was in my 20s and was very excited about it. It took me actually 5 years to write the thing. And I finally shipped it off to 10 big publishers, and it took a year, but every single one of them came back and rejected me.
Ouch.
So what I thought was going to be my big shot kind of just fizzled out, and I pretty much gave up on writing for a long time. I tried coming back to it here and there, but finally when I was in my early 40s, I'd always had this strange idea that I would be a better writer in my 40s because I would have more life experience to draw on, just overall be able to produce better work.
Right.
So I came back to it, and I started with short stories to kind of, tone that writing muscle that had been allowed to go for so long. And one of my first shorts that I wrote was sold to Dream Spinner, which is a local, or not local, say worldwide book publisher, male romance publisher.
Mm-hmm.
Sci-fi fantasy is kind of a little more my forte, but I've enjoyed writing that as well. So I've kind of branched out, and since then I've had about 30 stories published, from short story to novella to novel length. And nothing is broken out yet, but I've had some decent success with things, so I really enjoy doing it.
Cool. So what did you do in the interim between your 20s and your 40s, if you don't mind saying? What was your quote unquote profession?
Well, first of all, I met the love of my life, my husband Mark, and we've been together now for 27 years.
Bravo.
Wow.
And he's been very supportive of my writing. He and I both had corporate jobs at the time, and since we ended up starting our own business, which is Mongoose and the Loose web design, and that's kind of branched out into a number of directories for the LGBTQ plus community. So we basically do a travel directory, we do a wedding directory, a real estate directory, and then on the writing side, we're kind of moving into things as well, where we've got a Queer Sci Fi, which I think might be where you guys found me.
Right.
And then QueeRomance Ink, which is a directory for romance writers, for queer romance writers. And we also do some author blog tours and some other support services. So kind of like anybody these days, we sort of have 20 jobs to make everything work.
Trust me, we know that. Yeah. Well, we've been together for 23 years, and we kind of stumbled on this podcasting thing
Just a little over 5 years ago.
Well, this
whole podcast thing.
our podcast, 5 years ago, but the whole
world of podcasting.
The world of podcasting, or being involved in it, about 7 years ago. So, and then the website is just a life of its own. It's our part-time job, because we both still have regular corporate jobs.
Yeah, our part-time no pay job.
Exactly.
Yeah, passion project. I know it well.
Oh yeah. So, tell us about your writing. You said that you are into sci-fi. What kind of sci-fi? I mean, what were your influences, and obviously you're kind of contemporaries with us, so you kind of grew up with some of the same things that we did, the original Star Trek and etc. Although we're old enough to remember it on the original run.
My mom was a big sci-fi fantasy reader. She was a sci-fi book club member, and she had shelves of science fiction fantasy books.
God bless her.
Yeah.
Yes. So she kind of encouraged me in that. I actually started, one of my first ones was Lord of the Rings, not the Hobbit, but the actual Lord of the Rings series, which started, I think, in second grade.
Wow.
Whoa. Third grade. Yeah. I was reading at like a 12th grade level by the fourth grade.
Wow.
But that it got me hooked. And then there were, of course, the classics, the Asimov, his whole Foundation series, and Arthur Clarke, The Rendezvous with Rama. And Anne McCaffrey was like oh my God, first of all, you've got these just amazing worlds that she builds, and the Dragon Riders, you've got like fantasy and you've got sci-fi, and it's like all bundled up into one big thing. And it was my kind of entry into that idea of really kind of mixing the two.
Yeah.
So I was around for the first Star Wars movie. I begged, borrowed, and stealed to go see it 7 times with different relatives during its first month. I used to have all the cards, and I wish I still had them because they'd be worth a mint now, the little collector cards.
Oh yeah. I remember those.
Yeah, so I've always been into that. I kind of have branched out a little more recently into, like I said, I've done some of the contemporary male-male romance, but usually even that stuff for me has a bit of like a magical realism twist. So there's a little something extra, like there's I have a Freaky Friday kind of story where a bear and a gym rat switch bodies for the story.
Oh dear.
Yes, or one with an amulet where people you can actually hear people's thoughts and what they're thinking out of the words they're saying to you. So I do some straight contemporary, but most of it is, even that's a little bit into the kind of the magical realism fantasy side.
Right. Interesting. That's really fascinating. Where did I? Oh, you said some. Oh, what? Dragon Riders of Pern. That's what it was.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that
Oh, my
story.
gosh.
The story that will never go away.
Exactly. We ran something way, way back when we first started the website. The website kind of came about by being, a Saturday morning. I'm on one of my
Manic modes,
and because he needed something to do after the podcast that we were on kind of went away,
evaporated.
And then so I thought, what about TG Geeks, the Two Gay Geeks? And so we came up with tggeeks.com, and early on we ran some article because he ran across a news article that says Dragon Riders of Pern is
been optioned for a film.
Been optioned. Of course, it's been optioned like 1,300 times.
I know.
And that article rears its head every so often.
Yeah.
Somebody will run across it and will have 5 or 6 hits today and 2 hits today. And I mean, it just
And they
it
still
just never
comment on
dies.
it. We still get comments on that article.
I
really
hope
hope
really
Warner.
good.
Yeah, I'm really hoping Warner Brothers does this one right. I'm like, oh, do you realize how old this story is?
Exactly. So
Yeah,
just one of
I
those-
felt that way about the Shannara stuff, and I still have not brought myself to watch the MTV Shannara
Oh,
series.
I'm scared.
I love those books so much,
Yeah,
and
I read them in high school.
I was just like, well, first of all, MTV. I mean,
Right.
okay.
I know. Hello.
MTV was music videos when I was younger. Now it's like Shannara. I don't know. So yeah, I don't have a lot of faith that when you have something that's so beloved and so many people are invested in it. I think they pulled it off with the Lord of the Rings for the most part. Those films, I think, especially
Right.
the three, were pretty true to the spirit of the books.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we'll see if it ever happens.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. The whole sci-fi fantasy genre has really kind of blown up. I remember in our early years that sci-fi was almost verboten on TV. And even in film, it was just
That's
unbelievable.
That's a very interesting point to kind of go down because, as we've Keith is telling us, we've seen this nice propagation of science fiction fantasy. I mean, it's pop culture has just completely reshaped itself with sci-fi and fantasy, and but for the longest time there was never any kind of LGBTQ plus representation, and now even in books and in some more independent creations, we're now beginning to see that start to really get going. What's your kind of take on that?
Well, that was one of the reasons I started the Queer Sci Fi site. There were a couple smaller sites out there, but not a lot of folks that were doing that at the time. And I really wanted to make a community of folks that liked the kind of stuff I liked. I do see a lot of energy in the not just the MM, but the romance market that's moved into a lot of genre stuff. Mm-hmm. Back in the late 2000s, the first decade, a lot of folks that were writing romance really didn't like the way that they were kind of, in many cases, forced to portray women as weak and men as strong and men coming and saving the day. And they realized if they wrote gay romance, they could have two male characters and have two strong characters. And then it didn't always work out that way, but a lot of folks moved over into that. And over the last 10 years or so, that's evolved into a wide variety of fiction. Some of it still really strong romance-based romance tropes, but a lot of it, I think people are moving more and more now into writing queer sci-fi, fantasy, mystery, etc. That may have a couple characters that have a romantic arc, but really is not romance anymore. So it's been really exciting to see that kind of grow and that energy kind of build up. For me, that's one of the things I kind of followed that arc. I had a series that I sold to Dream Spinner that it had a strong romantic arc. I wouldn't say it's totally romance, but they thought it would do better on the romance side. So that was the Skythane, Lander, and Othani, which are the Oberon cycle. Last one just came out in February. But then at the same time, I had a series that is my Liminal Sky series that is much more just sci-fi without any romance in it. That really is chock full of queer characters. Oh, cool. So I think we're seeing a lot of that stuff happening now. People are embracing it, and it's kind of become the new it thing in a lot of ways. To the point where now, like in the beyond gay characters, I see like a TV show will announce like we're going to have our first gay male cisgender white character, and I'm like, yay,
right.
Well, I mean that's good. It's movement, it's inclusion, but it's like there's so much more to the community now, and it's like it's really when you see people taking risks with bisexual characters, intersex characters, transgender characters, like the new one on Supergirl.
Yeah. Yes.
Did you guys watch that?
Yes, I'm familiar with who you're talking about.
Yeah, what was her name?
I can't remember her name.
But I love her character, and I love the fact that she is played by a transgender woman. It's just an unabashed, straight-up representation. Did you guys see that CW commercial about 3-4 months ago where they did the inclusion stuff?
Yeah, actually, I saw that there was an article for it on the web and a few months back, and I was really, really pleased to see them do that. Especially with some of this, shift in not political, but social climate that we've been seeing in some areas. To see that happen, I thought was just highly encouraging, and reaching out to a whole new generation of people.
Yeah, I think you have on one level you've got all the politics and stuff going on up here, and there's some really negative things for our community that are happening. But I think underneath that, at the ground level, I think that there's still a lot of progress happening in people's views,
Absolutely.
and a lot of that is driven by the kids that grew up with Will and Grace, and they grew up with the idea of marriage equality, and they grew up with their friends being out, like I didn't, and that's all pushing its way through the culture over time, and I don't think it's really a stoppable thing at this point. I mean, knock on wood.
I mean, we've won the battle. We've won the war.
We've won the war. It's just a question
battles.
of when do we finally cross that finish line? But yeah, the war is won basically.
Yeah, and then you see that reflected in pop culture, where you do have more and more representation of different kinds of people just happening all the time. Marvel finally having a gay character in a movie, which I have to admit, I'm like the one person who hasn't seen all 22 movies in the Marvel arc. I know. We have plans.
But, you're going to sit down one weekend and watch all of them.
You're going to mainline the whole thing.
and like Discovery having the gay couple on it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And don't tell me no spoilers, because I haven't finished season 2 yet.
Well,
okay.
No
words.
I just have to say that initially, we're big Star Trek fans, obviously. Yeah. And when Discovery started, it was, oh my God. And then they brought Culber in, and then all of a sudden they kill him.
Oh yeah, it's that whole let's kill the gay tropes.
Exactly. Right. And it's like, I still say, and I still wonder if it was not pressure from outside that the reason that they brought him back, or was it truly, as they quote unquote say, it was by design? So
I have my opinion. But
I do know he came back, so that's not a spoiler for me. So thank you.
Yeah. And, well,
and we'll let you see how that finishes off. We won't tell you how it plays out, but we'll let you kind of get to the end of that yourself.
Yeah, I thought it was great that they had a male couple, and one was white, very white, shall we say?
Oh yes, incandescent.
Yes. and the other one, a man of color. And I
have to ask this question: how far are you in that series?
Actually, we just watched the first 1 or 2 episodes of the new one.
I can't tell you then. There's a really great spoiler later on that I wanted to tell you, but I won't.
We have a complicated relationship with CBS All Access, because I don't like that I have to pay extra for it, so we just wait until it's either free or we buy a month, and we wait until we can watch that and The Good Fight and whatever else.
I was doing that last year.
Yeah.
I
didn't pay for anything.
I wasn't paying. No, we were watching it totally for free, but I was so happy with the little Star Trek shorts that they did over the break, and then I canceled my account again, and then when the opportunity came, for Discovery came back, I thought, okay, let me go for the free account one more time and see how this goes. And by the 3rd episode, I was so sold. I said, okay, you guys win. I will now pay. So for me, it was worth it at that point.
I don't mind paying for it. I mean, we just happen to have a free month coincide with this. I would have paid for it anyway for the month, but we'll see. Do you guys watch Orville?
Yes.
I didn't want to see that at first, because I really didn't like the idea of kind of mocking sci-fi.
Well, especially considering who's creating it. I mean, Seth is a bit of a nut job, so yeah, I was afraid it was going to be just a pure satire, which is. And then one of
my marketing person actually from Dreamspinner said you need to watch that show.
Yeah.
And so we started watching it, and Mark's not a big sci-fi nut like I am. He likes the superhero stuff mostly, and he likes Star Trek. But he really likes it too. I love how they've woven in the whole bits with the Mocklins and the child, and the idea of both the gender equality, but also the idea of forcing somebody into a gender that they're not.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, when that was first presented, I mean, I remember giving that just like the biggest cheer and saying, it doesn't matter how this episode resolves. The fact that they had the nerve to tackle it.
Right.
And do it in that whole beautiful metaphorical package that Star Trek was famous for Orville to do that now just made it, to me, I thought it was just the greatest thing I'd seen on television in a long time. I was very
pleased. Especially having such a stereotypically masculine characers being the gay guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think it's a really their timing was spot on, because the whole backlash against intersex surgery has really kind of blown up in the last couple of years. Yeah. And I think that is a wonderful thing, that people are saying something about that. I
they
just had read or didn't read the article. I just kind of skimmed it at the top level, and it said, the percentage of children that are born intersex is staggering. So
yeah. There's a lot of different variations on it too. One of the things we have on our website, I have a number of intersex friends, and one of them did a presentation for us on our Facebook group about what it means to be intersex, and it had the different kinds of intersex people on that, and it allowed us to put that. It's a PDF presentation on the Queer Sci Fi website.
Oh, cool!
So
I'll have
if
to
anybody's
check that
interested in
out.
more information, just go to Queer Sci Fi and go to we have a little wiki section, and there's a tab for it under that. There was a lot of stuff that I didn't know, and just there's so many different ways to be intersex too, because it's different processes that you get, your body gets there,
Right.
and different combinations of the chromosomes you end up with. So it's not just one thing.
Right. So that's I think it's wonderful, and I think the whole transgender movement has. I mean, we run I do a PSA for the Trans Lifeline, and we do the Daniel Radcliffe's PSA for Trevor Project. Both of them are. I mean, we run both of those on every single episode, and it's. I think it's
awesome.
important, that we not only talk about the LGBTQ, but we talk about the T portion, as much as we do about the other portions.
It needs the
too.
love as well.
Yeah.
So,
And
there was a whole
it's not a taboo thing anymore.
No.
I mean, it's something that people need to sit up and take notice of. Because
There's a whole movement to get rid of the G at one point, and saying that the gays already had their stuff, and there was a movement to get rid of the T because they were causing us too much trouble for our rights. And to me, it's like it's all. I'll just say it's stupid.
Yes.
well,
Podcast.
I like the fact
gotta
that it's
think, yeah.
LGBTQ plus now.
Yeah, and I use queer interchangeably with that, but I know that there's also for folks that are older than me, that word has a lot more stigma than it did for me.
Right.
So I try to also use the LGBTQ plus, because that's also it's inclusive, and it doesn't pull on those same strings. So.
Right. And I've come to accept the word queer and other things, but it's definitely an interesting process that this whole community of us others have put together.
He says with air quotes.
We're becoming a community. It's a great thing that we're all coming together
Exactly.
for the same thing, and that's equality.
I agree.
So.
I got to get back to something that you touched on a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Now you're still writing, yes?
Oh yeah, I write for about an hour and a half every day when I can fit it in. So there's some days just they just are crazy and you can't do it. But yeah, as much as possible, I try to write every day.
Do you write? So now you said earlier that you've been writing like series of books, correct?
Yeah.
So each one's set in their own little
here comes
universe.
the question.
Yeah, you know where I'm going. Yes.
He has a question that he asks all
You
authors.
guys aren't married by any chance, are you?
Oh yes, we are. Oh yes, we are. Well, first, when you're writing these series, do they? It's not crossover, but are you writing multiple series at any one given time? Because we've got a friend of ours who lives in Atlanta, and she's got like multiple series of books that she writes simultaneously, which of course just completely boggles my mind. And I maintain that I think we need to start paying for her psychotherapy, because I'm convinced she's got split personality disorder. But is that something that you do?
Yeah, I did actually set myself an insane task. I had 2 stories I was working on that I really loved, and I met with the publisher at one of the retreats a couple years ago and pitched them both, and she liked them both. And so I ended up writing both series in tandem. So I was releasing one in February and one in October, February, October. And they were not initially connected. One takes place about 150 years from now, and the other one takes place about 2,000 years from now. But they ended up connecting.
They end up merging. Ooh.
Yeah, there's a few things, and it was kind of cool because I was working on editing one while I was writing the other. I was able to work out and insert some things where if you're reading both series together, you will notice a few things that connect, that bring them together, that suggest that they are a connected series. If you don't read them together, you don't need to, because they are separate, complete stories.
Okay, this is cool, because this sort of leads into the big question that I always ask of authors, because I find this fascinating, and it's almost universal, the answer. When you start to write, especially your main characters, your protagonists, do they eventually become fully realized in your brain to the point where they're like alive?
Huh. Yeah, I know. I've had this question a lot. I've actually posted this on one of our discussions about how characters kind of go in their own direction and talk to you, and had kind of a split reaction of some people saying, yeah, they totally are like real people, and other people like, they're just characters. That's crazy. For me, they're not alive in the sense, but they do take on their own characteristics. I've always been more of a plot-driven writer to begin with, because that's what I loved about sci-fi, was just these amazing plots and the ways things could be. But one of my early criticisms was that I was not character-driven enough, and so I've really worked on my characters and trying to think of the traits of each one and the way that they act around things. And one of the most helpful things that I was given at a writing seminar was to give each character an action verb. And that's their through line throughout the story. So when something happens, your character might be fight, or they might be hide, or they might be flee. And those things dictate kind of how they're going to react to things. And so that's kind of helped me to build, just the ideas of how the characters are going to react. And sometimes I transgress against that. But at the end, they become not real people, but they do become someone that I'm sorry to see go.
Right.
Especially in the novels.
I bring this up because, first, that one author friend of ours in Atlanta, I mean, she has experienced that even from the very first book of hers, the Alien Catherine Kitty Cat series. It's a pop culture sci-fi book series that I think you would just love. We've got another friend who lives in North Carolina who just published a year and a half ago his very first. It's an urban fantasy with gay characters.
Okay.
Called The Last Son. Phenomenal. And he said, he had when he started writing that, I mean, he had certain preconceptions on where this was all going to go. And he said that by the time he got to the end of that book, everything began to change in terms of now the characters are actually screaming at him. I mean, they're literally yelling in his head because there's one plot point or storyline that he has no desire to want to touch because of the subject matter, and yet he told me in a private conversation that the characters are yelling at him in his head saying, when are you going to tell us? When are you going to tell the people our story? So it's like they've become so alive now, and certain character developments that were going to happen later on, he's now like, I have to rethink this now. Because there's clearly an evolution that's taking place here. So I always find it interesting to see how authors, how they handle their characters, especially with stories that are character driven and on a series basis.
Yeah, there's always the whole pantser versus plotter thing. Do you go by the seat of your pants, or do you actually plot things out? And I find myself kind of in the middle of that. I'm working on it's sort of a sequel to the Liminal Sky series, although it takes place in a different location. It's my idea of a hopeful, like what's going to happen post climate change, and so I have my idea of how I want the story to be and kind of an idea where it's going to end up. But as you're going through, you do your characters do kind of start to interact and things happen, and you're like, well, first of all, here's something I didn't realize about this character. And then sometimes that will actually drive what's going to happen next. I have a character that turned out that he and his sister were raised in a base that was basically a post-apocalyptic type location, and a lot of the military is very Christian, and so they ended up becoming really Christian and very procreative because there's no more humanity, so we have to procreate. And of course, one of the guys is gay, so he's got that kind of coming up against the other people that were raised on the moon that basically took on more of a Buddhist philosophy. And so there's a whole inherent kind of interaction between those two and a fight between those two that will provide a lot of interesting details for the story going forward that I hadn't planned on when I laid out the general idea of the plot.
Yeah,
so
interesting.
They do kind of, they can kind of drive things. One of the other characters, she lost use of her legs when she was little, and now she has like an exoskeleton thing that allows her to walk like a normal person.
Oh, cool.
But what happens? So she's a drop knot. She's someone's like an astronaut, but coming down to Earth. What happens when, for some reason, you lose power?
Oh, yeah.
So there's like a lot of just interesting character things that come from their past that you can just play with and figure out how they all interact and how they carry your story forward.
Yeah.
Like, I get that.
Far out. Well, we need to have you back on the show because there's so much more that we would love to talk to you about, but we're
That'd
hitting
be
against the deadline.
Yeah.
So with that, if people want to learn more about you, and really, I would recommend listeners check this guy out. He's got some really interesting things going on. So where can people learn more about you in terms of social media and websites? I mean, can they follow you on Twitter and Facebook, and what kind of websites do you have to offer?
Sure. I'm pretty easy to find. My website's the main point of entry. It's J. Scott Coatsworth, and that's like coats like your jacket and worth like how much is it worth, .com. You can get to pretty much everywhere from there, but I'm also on Facebook under that name. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, although I'm not a heavy gram poster yet, but I'm trying. There's just so many social media sites these days.
Oh, it's
so yeah, any of those. But I am honestly. I mean, I love Facebook and I hate Facebook.
Trust me, we understand.
Yes, we know.
Yeah, I mean, for what I do, I have to be on there, so I'm on there pretty much 24/7. If you want to, bump me and chat me, that'd be great.
Far out.
Cool. Well, this has been absolutely fascinating. Thank you for being on the show with us.
And we got to have you back on again in the future.
That'd be awesome. It was a lot of fun. Thanks, guys.
All right.
This is K.D. Edwards, author of The Last Sun, and you're listening to The Two Gay Geeks.
That was kind of a fun interview.
Oh, it was a good conversation,
and the different thing. My God, he's just busy.
He's very, very busy. But at the same time, what I find refreshing is that we're really seeing just this incredible growth in genre writing that is geared towards the LGBTQ plus audience out there. I love that.
It's great. It's great. Here's a few selected birthdays for June 10th through June 16th, 2019. June 10th, Judy Garland.
Somewhere over the rainbow.
You'll find us.
Yeah.
And also Dustin Lance Black and Jürgen Prochnow. And good friend of ours, Barbara Dillon.
Who we
probably
might be talking
I think
to.
we talked to her yesterday, didn't we?
Maybe it is. I don't know. We're everything's really timey-wimey right now.
Exactly, because we're recording this on Saturday. We're supposed to talk to some people on Sunday, so who knows what's going to happen. But also Alex Davis, a good friend of ours, and Evo Terra. June 11th, Peter Dinklage, Gene Wilder, Jacques Cousteau, Richard Strauss, who created some really wonderful
work,
operas.
And not also symphonic work too.
Symphonic work, yeah. Some of his four last songs are just exquisite.
And I stand by his Death and Transfiguration. I think it's amazing.
Absolutely. And a good friend of ours, Dr. Christy Hartman and Jeff Lynne.
Not of ELO.
Not of ELO. My gosh, I'm tired. June 12th, Anne Frank and Jim Neighbors. June 13th, Stellan Skarsgård, Malcolm McDowell, Paul Lind.
Have to feed the kitties.
Mary Wicks, who is the female Paul Lind.
She is in a way, isn't she?
Yeah. Chris Evans and Andrian, who is carrying the torch still for
Carl Sagan.
And literally the torch, not the torch as in
No, she's actually carrying on his mission.
His legacy.
Yes.
June 14th, Che Guevara, Boy George, Burl Ives the Snowman, and Alois Alzheimer, who? Alois Alzheimer.
Who?
Oh, stop it. And my cousin, Kathy Rippey Falconberry. Happy birthday, Kathy. June 15th, Neil Patrick Harris, Helen Hunt, Jim Varney, Edvard Grieg, famed composer, and Matt Chesson.
How nice that Matt and Jeff have such close, because they've worked together.
Yeah, I know. There's a couple of days difference. June 16th, Barbara Stanwyck, Geronimo, and Jack Albertson. And that's it for the birthdays this time.
Hi, this is Barbara Dillon, one of the co-hosts of Fanbase Press's flagship podcast, The Fanbase Weekly. During the Fanbase Weekly podcast, the co-hosts and I discuss the top geek news stories of the week. In each episode, we are joined by special guests from all across the pop culture spectrum to get their take on what's happening in geekdom. Past guests have included Jeffrey Thorne, writer of Leverage and The Librarians, DC All Access's Jason Inman, Debbie Lynn Smith of Chimera Press, Xena Warrior Princess executive producer Stephen L. Sears, Ashley V. Robinson of Geek History Lessons, and many, many more. Join us for an episode of the podcast that celebrates fandoms on a weekly basis. A new episode of the Fanbase Weekly is released every Monday. Be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or look for the podcast at fanbasepress.com.
Go give a listen to our friends Barbara and Bryant Dillon over at Fanbase Weekly.
I'm Daniel Radcliffe, and I believe that reaching out for help is the bravest thing a person can do. If you are struggling and need support, call the Trevor Lifeline at 1-866-488-7386. It's free and confidential, and trained counselors are there to listen 24/7 without judgment. To learn more about the Trevor Project's life-saving work for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or questioning young people, go to thetrevorproject.org.
What does that mean? Feedback? Yeah. I should have a feedback sound.
Maybe. Okay, so, oh, good God.
It's gone.
Thank you. Okay, so starting off with, this is going to we're hitting the Wayback Machine. Episode
Holy moly.
169. This 169, my goodness, that was over a year ago.
What the heck?
That was May 14th.
Wow.
Yeah. And we talked to Brian Weber, Arkle, about what he was working on at the time.
I see.
And but literally he just posted this like with the last couple of months.
Oh, cool.
And he just simply said that was a fun time.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah.
Ryan's always fun to talk to.
He's always enjoyable to talk to. And then, we had an article, or I should say, Andrea, she had one of her angles, one of her reviews, and she reviewed the movie Trial by Fire, calling it moving and emotional. And we got a comment from Hamish Downey on Instagram. And the movie stars Laura Dern. So he writes, I love Laura Dern. She really deserved an Oscar for Inland Empire. I adore Laura Dern as well. I think she's a wonderful actress, both serious and comedic. I think she's amazing. Now we get into the fun stuff. From here on, it's all TG Geeks episode 221.
All 221.
All 221. This is where we interviewed Ayman Saman and Russia Muhammad about the movie Jumper. So, first, now I need to back up a little bit because there was also a birthday shout out to Patrick D. Green, who we'll hopefully be talking to pretty
here
soon.
in a week or so.
And he writes, thank you so much for the birthday shout out. Now, starting off with, we got a comment from Patricia Chica. She's the one who helped put this whole interview thing together. She said, I was traveling when this got posted. I just listened to the episode directly from Cannes, and OMG! What a great and insightful interview this is. I learned a lot of new things from Ayman Saman and Russia Muhammad. Thank you so much, Keith Lane and Ben Raggington of TG Geeks. You guys are the best.
Oh, thank you, Patricia.
Then we got a comment from Ayman. And he writes, one of the most fun interviews I've had. Thank you so much for having us on your platform. TG Geeks, I look forward to more discussions, laughter, and banter in the near future.
Yeah.
And we did have a lot of... The pre-interview was very amusing.
Yes, it was, because we had all kinds of technical difficulties, but we laughed about it.
And to Ayman's and Russia's benefit, they were so understanding and laughed along with us. It made for a really great interview.
Yeah.
Then we got a comment from, then he adds on. He says, Patricia Chica, thank you for connecting us with Ben and Keith. Wonderful guys and very supportive. TG Geeks has new fans.
Yay.
And yes, these two, no matter what we're posting, they like what we do. So I love Ayman and Russia.
Yes.
And then we got a comment from Russia, and she says, thank you, Patricia Chica, for connecting us. We had so much fun with Keith Lane and Ben Raggington of TG Geeks. And then to close it off, we got a comment from Cheek Art Public Relations. And they said, this is a great interview with writer, director, actor Ayman Saman and actress, producer Raja Muhammad on the TG Geeks webcast. Thanks so much to hosts Keith and Ben for always having the best conversations with our Cheek Art filmmakers. Wow. Well, thank you. I mean, we had a great time, but thank you so much for the praise.
That's absolutely great. And you can leave a comment on any of our content that we have, whether it's an episode or whether it's an interview in an article or whether it's an article that we've written or a book review or anything. You can leave those comments at tggeeks.com directly in the comment section below each article. You can leave a comment on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and where else? Other places.
Any place where all good podcasts can be found. Yeah,
exactly.
And wherever we're found, yeah. And
exactly.
our presence is growing.
Yes. And if you just happen to be really excited about it, you could call our listener line and leave a comment on our voicemail, and we will play it on air the next time. You can call 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. And when commenting, always remember,
please play nice.
If you are in transition or have already transitioned and are in crisis, or you know of someone in crisis, there is a special hotline just for you. The hotline is provided by translifeline.org and staffed by specially trained counselors who are transgender themselves. The hotline in the U.S. is 877-565-8860. In Canada, it is 877-330-6366. Or you can go to the translifeline.org for more information about the important work they are doing. Please reach out for help.
Yeah, baby. They're like two gay geeks. They're together, you know. They're two gay guys and they're geeks. Is that okay?
So, what's now?
Yeah, what now? This is our second segment. Wow. We have had 2 days now at WhedonCON, as of this recording.
Right.
We have another one coming up. But, oh my gosh, we have seen so many different things and experienced so much.
Yeah, I remember we had a really good time. And last year we only came for the day.
Right.
But and we decided, you know, it was such a good con, we were going to come for the entire event.
Right.
Holy cow, this is a really good con.
Absolutely.
I'm really very, very impressed with it.
I mean, it's a fan run con.
It's a fan run con, but you know, it's
great. It's growing. And
it is growing. It is bigger.
Well,
this year, I think.
I think they were stymied by the size of the hotel.
Because last year they were in Sherman Oaks. And this year, as you heard earlier, I mean, we are at the Hilton, just like across the street from the runway of LAX Airport.
Yeah, and it's a huge.
It's a gigantic. I mean, this is.
Oh my gosh, they've got floors and floors and floors.
Yeah, this is a convention hotel.
Yeah, it's a great. In fact, there's other things going on here besides WhedonCon this
and
weekend.
Yet we're not. I mean,
and we're not running over each other.
No, we're not. I mean, there's a nice amount of people that are there, but we're not feeling all kind of squished up and compressed, you know, or like sardines in a can. I mean, it's an amazingly huge hotel.
Exactly. So it's kind of fun. We've talked to Neil and Jaina, obviously, and we talked to several people on the floor, and you know,
attended a few panels.
Attended a few panels. We've got a couple of people sort of lined up. We might be talking to them.
Oh, fingers crossed.
Yeah, but we'll see what happens, and then we'll obviously have a concast of a wrap up that will actually come out probably the same day that this comes out.
It's
It'll be
very
a
possible.
Separate article,
probably.
But it'll be our wrap up if we can.
Yeah, and just so people know, if you want to kind of get a little sense of what's going on here, please go to our website, tggeeks.com. We are publishing a concast episode there where we talk about what we've experienced during the day, what the next day's got going on. So if you want to know what WhedonCon is all about and what we're going through, what we're experiencing here, Please check those episodes out. You can only find them on our website at tggeeks.com, but it will be well worth it, especially if you're interested.
Segments.
Yeah, and interview segments too. Well, speaking of that.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we are huge supporters of independent creators. We've met so many independent creators at the con this year.
Yeah.
And it's like there is so much stuff. We've got to win the lottery because I want to buy everything.
I know. There's a lot of really great things.
Yeah, some great
stuff.
stuff.
Oh my God, we saw 3D Artist.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, he was amazing.
I hope we get to talk to him.
I hope so too, because that was just wow.
Yeah. But if you're at a con and you see a independent creator, whether it's a filmmaker, comic book artist, writer, or artist of some kind, please chat them up. Talk to them, tell other people about their stuff. If you like their stuff, buy their stuff. And if you do decide to buy their stuff at a con, try to have cash for them if you can. They don't really need those fees for credit cards, etc. So do that, and please support independent creators. So we normally play that at the very end. That's our up next time. But we've kind of moved this around into our second segment so that we can play a little bit of a sound bite for this. So we're going to play that sound bite because we talked to Neil and Jana Halford. And here we go. And we're welcoming back Mr. Neil Halford and Jana Halford from Uncharted Regions and Swords and Circuitry Studios and
what? Miscellaneous other things.
Everything else. All of those things. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're glad to be here.
Yeah. So
is it a 4-peat now, or
yeah, who knows? It's a 3-peat or a 4-peat or a 5-peat.
You can't get rid of us.
Is it like Saturday Night Live where we get the special jackets after we've had been on a certain number of episodes?
There you go. As soon as we get those jackets.
As soon as we can afford them.
Oh, just have them on Zazzle. Make people get their own.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I sense a Patreon gag coming here.
And that was our. That was
a great conversation.
That was just the introduction.
That's how it started. But it was such a great chat. I mean, we really de-geeked on what they've done, especially in terms of movies,
right.
Their short film subjects, and just movies in general.
Yeah, we talked about classic horror, black and white, actual film.
It was a
movies.
God, it was such a great chat.
I mean, of course, a bunch of nerds getting together and talking about film.
But if you like good classic horror, like the classic Universal or even the classic Hammer horror films from the 60s and such, check out this conversation. It was a nice chat. I was really happy that we had it.
Yeah, and of course, now we're going to do our con shout-outs for upcoming cons that are on the horizon. CocoCon returns for a second year, Labor Day weekend, at the Doubletree Hotel at Metro Center in Phoenix. Come on down and enjoy the folks and festivities. We're going to be there, and we're going to be doing our popular concast like we did for WhedonCON here, as well as socializing and having a great time. Go to cococon.org. That's COCOCON.org. And we want to run this public service announcement for Joshua Tree Feeding Program. The goal of Joshua Tree Feeding Program is to provide nourishment to low-income HIV-positive residents of Maricopa County. They provide balanced meals from their pantry, and it is a pantry where clients have the opportunity to choose what they want, just like a grocery store. Please consider supporting Joshua Tree either with a single gift or a monthly recurring gift. Go to jtfp.org. And Ben's going to give us a rundown of what we posted this week.
Starting with Sunday, June 2nd, it was Dr. Zombie Monster Family Physician number 51. He's approaching a year.
1 year.
And then on Monday, June 3rd, we had episode 224 of the TG Geeks.
224?
224.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes, and then on Tuesday, June 4th, there was my breakdown of the movie Godzilla, King of the Monsters. I said it roars and it finally has bite. And then on Wednesday the 5th, another breakdown, this time for the documentary The Lavender Scare.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow. I actually said it's a brilliant and horrifying look at our own history for the LGBTQ community.
Wow.
It is an amazing documentary. If you have a chance to see it, please do so. Grab your friends. Everybody needs to see that film. It is amazing.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then on Thursday, June 6th, there's a review for Pavarotti. This is Andrea's Angle. She calls it Sublime, The Legend and the Man. And she also has another review for The Secret Life of Pets 2, calling it Funny as the First.
She was a busy girl this week.
She's very busy. And then on Friday, the 7th, it was episode 1 of the TG Geeks Concast from WhedonCOn 2019.
Hey.
You know what that meant? Yeah. And then also there was News Sushi number 65, Morsels of News from Japan and Beyond from Hamish Downey. And then there was my breakdown, this time for a novel, Murder at the World's Fair.
Which is being released.
It is being released as of this recording.
As of this recording today.
Yeah.
At the Glad Day Bookstore in
by,
Toronto.
By M.J. Lyons, who we interviewed in episode 224.
You have got to get this book.
This book is a mind blower.
280 pages. It is a quick read. It's a great read.
Oh my God!
I love it. I can't
book.
Wait.
That book was so good,
one.
and there will be another one. The way that book ended.
Squeak?
Yes, I did. You squeed. But yes, I called it a remarkable and mature steampunk young adult triumph. And that sounds like a contradiction, but if you read this book, you'll get what I mean. And then on Saturday, June 8th, TG Geeks Concast WhedonCON 2019, episode number 2. Oh. And then we had a press release. Film Movement Plus celebrates Pride Month. Check that out. That is a very interesting article. And then TG Geeks explores uncharted regions with Neil and Jaina Halford. That's the little soundbite you heard a little bit ago. And we will have all of these links in the show notes for this episode at tggeeks.com.
You can find everything that we publish on tggeeks.com, as well as our entries on the Facebook page and Twitter and Instagram. Everything posts everywhere. Please visit and comment.
Yes.
It's your turn.
Oh, it's my... So it is. You tripped me up here.
I tricked
you. Got a couple of shout outs here. First to the Arkle Times Post Dispatch News for republishing our content periodically. Yay. That is put out by the Human Arkle. We heard a little bit of feedback from him earlier today.
And I I sent a message to Brian on, and he said that he is back doing shameless cash grab.
Yeah, he's doing shameless
grabbing cash shamelessly again.
Yes, he is. Well, good for him, because he grabs it shamelessly with the best.
Anyway, that's on YouTube, by the way.
Yeah, that's on YouTube. But you can find the Arkle Times Post Dispatch News by going to Twitter and searching Arkle. That's ARKLE. And we have to give some shout-outs to some Facebook groups for allowing us to post our episodes and relevant articles on their pages. First to Gay Geeks After Hours. When I asked them, can we share our content there, we were literally told, share away. And we do. Their URL is facebook.com/group/Gay Geeks After Hours. That's all one word, obviously. And then to The Gay Geek for allowing us to share all of our fun stuff on their page. Their URL is facebook.com/groups/The Gay Geek. Special thanks to their moderator, Jeremiah Reeves, for giving us his blessings and permission to share our content there.
Thank you, Jeremiah. And lastly, we can be found on Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, as well as where other fine podcasts can be found. Also, check us out on Krypton Radio at 3 a.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific time on Tuesdays. Go and listen to some of their other content. There were 24-hour geeky internet radio stations celebrating 10 years on the air. And you can please rate us and review us on iTunes and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have that is audio only. Okay, that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out the article for this webcast episode. We're going to have several links on the page of things that we talked about. We'll have a link to that article by Neil and Jaina. If you only check out this article, you please check out everything else on tggeeks.com.
We have a lot of really good stuff there.
We publish something every single day.
Yeah.
So please check it out. If you only listen to the podcast, please go to our website, tggeeks.com.
You will not be sorry.
Yeah, and remember you can comment on our Facebook page or on the website, tggeeks.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TGGeeks. That is 469-844-3357. From Mobile TG Squared Studios, I am Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. Please be kind. Peace.
Cheers.